What's going on YouTube? BryceCrispy94 here, bringing you another miniature painting video. This time we have the Red Slaad from Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures. Now this is their paint night kit. So we are going to be doing things a little bit differently. Because I do like to paint how it teaches you to paint in the videos that come with these kits. So I'm going to be doing that. But while I'm doing that, in my step-by-step, I'm going to explain why I maybe did something different, or why I like what they're doing and teaching, or why I don't like what they're doing and teaching. So consider this kind of a review of the Red Slaad Paint Night Kit, while also teaching you how to paint a Red Slaad Paint Night Kit. So let's go ahead and crack this box open. Here it is. There's the Red Slaad Paint Night. QR code for the video. I don't know if I can get that. There you are. If you guys want to scan that for the whole thing, I think it might be better if I do this actually. There you go. You can pause that and pull up the actual video to see what I am following along with. So that way you guys can compare what I do compared to that. So we have 2 things of paint, it looks like, which is pretty typical. As well as 2 brushes, fine detail and multi-purpose. You may have actually seen me use these in some of my videos because I continue to do so. I have quite a few of them, and they make great brushes for speed paints and metallics. You know, those things that you kind of want to use a fine detail on, but you don't want to use one of your nice brushes. These actually end up working very well. Here's the actual Slaad, but let's go over the contents of the box real quick. So we get vermilion, dark sea green, light flesh, black green, heart green flat, and Vallejo black. I can tell you right now, I will not be using Vallejo black. I will be using Army Fingers matte black because I am a huge unfan or hater of Vallejo black. It is too shiny and I just do not like it. Heavy red, beastly brown, hexed lichen, parasite brown, refractive green, and black red. All those sound like good colors. Then a couple other things it comes with. Obviously this is where the brushes are. It gives you a couple dry palettes here, and then a nice paint cup full of water, which I usually keep and end up using for like a one-time purpose. I think I made a snow mixture in one of them, so they are kind of handy for that. It's made for like a little water cup, but I always have my jar of water with me. So let me get this mini out so we can kind of look at it. I believe this is just the same Red Slaad you can get from like the Nolzur's unpainted minis. Wow, this is in here. Okay, there we have a base. Oh, it's a black base. I like that. I prefer the black bases over the clear bases. I don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of the clear bases. I feel like I'm about to break this frog trying to get it out of the packaging. Oh my goodness. So it's like, it's glued in here, and this plastic does not want to release it. There we go. That was much harder than what it needed to be. Okay, so here we have the Red Slaad in all of its glory. Really cool figure. I like the Slaads as a species. What is there? Red, green, blue, black, gray? Because I don't think there's a white one. I think it's gray. And then there's the Death Slaad as well. And I think in earlier editions there were even more. There we have that. But yeah, enough chit chat. Now that we've opened it up to see what we're working with, I'm gonna go ahead and glue this sucker to the base, put it on my handle, and let's get to painting. So we're going off book from the how-to video from the box, which is by Den of Imagination, and will be linked below if you guys want to check that out. But we're going to grab some Citadel Technical Martian Iron Crust, and we're just going to slap that on the black part of the base just to give it some texture and blend it in with the actual pre-made base that the model is standing on. it'll just look completely better when it's blended and there's no flat black surface. Okay, real quick interjection here before we get too into the video. My paints were pretty much destroyed. Like the Vallejo paints that came with it. Here is my, maybe if I can get it open. I mean, it is just, this is after I've tried to fix it with some water and a couple mixing balls, and yeah, here's my purple. The purple's actually not as bad now that I've mixed it up. Light flesh is total. You can see it coming out of the thing. So I am going to be using a few colors that are different. Really just these three, I believe, were the only ones that were trash, and the Beastly Brown, but I actually do have Vallejo's Beastly Brown. So like, I've decided to use D&D Cambion Crimson from Army Painter over the Heavy Red. I'm still looking for some colors to match. Probably use this Opal Skin here for the light flesh. Still looking for a color to match these. But yeah, I just wanted to say, so my colors won't look exactly like the video colors, but I will explain what colors I'm using. Also, I lost the footage already, you know. Second thing, it just didn't record, don't know why. But for the priming here, and all I did was take some brush on primer from Vallejo and get it to a nice lighter gray color so everything's matching. That way I don't have to worry about painting over the Martian iron crust with the colors we'll use for the basing. So that's it. Just wanted to talk about that. Let's get back to painting. Now, for the first step of the actual video, they have us base coating the entire Slaad in Heavy Red. However, the Heavy Red that came with my model is completely unusable. So I've grabbed D&D Army Painter Cambion Crimson, which is also Dragon Red in their actual line. And we are just going to cover the entirety of the model. For this step, we're going to be creating a wash using the dark red and black that came with the set. Now, I did a lot of red and a little bit of black just to give it that kind of nice dark red, more so than if you just had the black or the black red by itself. But we're not going to actually wash the entire model. We're going to do something called black lining, which is new to me, but I'm very happy this was included in the video. And what it is we're going to take the wash and we're just going to go basically in all the creases, all the dark spots where shadow would naturally be at. And then you can do a little bit of wash on some of those parts, like the head, the more textured parts. So the head, the shoulders, the back. But this is a very useful thing, and I look to use it in a lot of my future videos. Next up, we're going to grab the Vallejo Vermilion and we're going to do some dry brushing. Now, make sure the model's completely dry because we don't want to brush off any of that wash that we just put on it. But the dry brush is pretty simple. We're just going to use the Vermilion, which is a nice bright red, and we're going to hit the upper parts of this model, such as its forearms, the tops of its legs, a little bit on the back, a little bit on the chest, a little bit on the eyes, you know, everywhere you want the light to shine. Now we're going back to the Vermilion paint here and we're going to create a glaze. And then we're just going to kind of build up the layers where we dry brushed. So especially on the forearm, you can see there's kind of a V and you can kind of just build up the layers on that V to make it very bright. Same on the legs and on the eyebrows. So the two biggest spots I hit with the glaze. Now we're going to grab the light flesh, or since my light flesh was destroyed, I used Army Painter's opal skin, and we're just going to base coat the eyes with this. This is just going to give it a lighter exterior. Now it may take 2 or 3 coats because of the red, but it'll make the eyes much brighter when we actually go to paint them. Now, in the video, they have us using a vermilion wash here. However, since I already had the vermilion glaze made, I just used it and just built up the layers of the eyes. But again, this will add vibrancy to the eyes once they are completely finished. Doing some more glazing here, this time with a vermilion red and light flesh glaze. So basically what I did was took the opal skin that I had and just kind of splashed the vermilion glaze over into it, mixed it up, and had a nice vermilion red light flesh glaze. But we're just going to apply this in a circle around the eye, basically making the whites of the eye, leaving the red as the pupil, or iris, sorry, not pupil. For the next couple of steps, we're just going to be using black, which I'm not using the Vallejo black because I'm not a fan of Vallejo black. I'm just using Army Painter's matte black. Either or, your preference. But for the first one, we're just going to take a little bit and we're just going to put a slit in each eye to make the pupil of the eye. Now we're going to take black and we're going to paint the claws of the toad, sorry, Slaad, as well. So the claws on the hand, so I think there's 4 there, and then 4 on each feet, except for my model only had 3 on 1 feet, whatever. And then also the spikes on the back and shoulders of the model will be painted with the black as well. Now make sure that black is good and dry before moving on to this next step, which is just a dry brush with the Vallejo Dark Sea Green, which is not green at all, it is gray. But this is going to add some nice shine look to those claws and spike, give them a little more color than just straight black. Moving on to the teeth of the model, we're going to take some Vallejo Beastly Brown and cover all the teeth with this color. Then we're going to try and highlight them with some Parasite Brown. Now, this is a step that I did, but I don't necessarily agree with. The teeth are so small on this model that most of the highlighting is just lost, especially with this Parasite Brown color that is not much different than the Beastly Brown. The next step, they have us grabbing some game ink, black green game ink to be specific, from Vallejo, and adding some stripes on the model, pretty much up to our discretion. I did some on the sides and the legs. The only issue with this is it didn't show up on my model as nicely as it does in the video. So I'm not sure if they added something to their game ink or what, but it's a step that I'm not too happy with how it ended up looking on my model. Now, thankfully, this next step did save the stripes for me a little bit. I'm still a little mad with how they turned out, but that's okay. But they have us making a glaze out of the Park Green Flat, which is a very pretty color, and I do enjoy it. And then we're just kind of applying that glaze to the tops of the stripes, just to give them a nice little highlight. Now, this next step I could take or leave. We're going to use Vallejo's Hetched Lichen, or Lichen, not 100% sure. We're going to make a wash out of it. Now, I think I didn't get my wash quite where I should have, so be very careful, because my dots were much more purple than what I would have liked. But it's just supposed to add a little bit more color to it, and again, you're just kind of applying them randomly to the model in spots you would think it looks good. Now, the model itself is pretty much done here, just a few steps at the end. So we're going to move down to the base, and we're going to start off by using Vallejo's Refractive Green to cover it all. Now, that we did the Iron Crust, we're going to be using a lot more, so just be wary of that if you're running low on your Refractive Green that came with the set, kind of like I was. But I was able to get it done in 1.5 coats. Next, the video has us creating a black wash to apply to the Refractive Green, but I was over washes and creating my own at this point, so I just grabbed some Citadel Shade Nuln Oil and applied that, and I think it turned out pretty fantastic. Now, once everything's 100% dry on the base, we're going to grab some more of that dark sea green and do a dry brush over the entirety of the base. And this will be super nice, especially since we added some of that texture paint in the beginning to form a really kind of mossy stone looking base. It's a combination I think I'll probably use in the future because I do really enjoy the look of this base. Now lastly, and you may want to grab a smaller brush than what I did. The video recommends that you use a small brush, but since I was painting with just the brushes it provided besides the dry brush, I tried to do it with the small detail brush, and I made the black lines a little thicker than what I wanted. But basically we're just doing a black line circle around the eyes just to make them pop just a little bit more. Why we didn't do this at the beginning, well, more towards the beginning, I do not know, but I'm just following along with the steps of the how-to video. But all in all, I think a 7 out of 10. I'm not saying I'm any better, but some of the steps were not hard to follow, but I just didn't have the right tools provided. And we are back, but before I reveal the finished model, if you have not already, hit that thumbs up button to let me know how I'm doing, leave a comment to let me know what you like about the video, and subscribe if you are not already. So also before I reveal the model, I'm gonna give my critique. This is the third or fourth, maybe in the fifth, because I've done a couple off camera of these miniature painting D&D Nolzur's Marvelous Miniatures paint night kits. They release them, they're really cool. They come with the paints you need, they come with a couple brushes, and they teach you how to paint the model. That being said, this one I had a lot of problems with that I haven't had in the past, but like, you know, I had the little interjection there where I was talking about how some of the paints are not the paints that they used, because those paints were completely destroyed, and I haven't had this for very long, at least not this Red Slaad one. And yeah, the paint was just too dry beyond repair. A few colors here, like the no, I don't have that camera up yet. These two I was able to at least add some liquid to and get them alive. Unfortunately, I did end up spilling, as you guys can see there, some of this part green flat, and yeah, this is one of the messiest paints I've done in a while because of the pots. So hate the pots, but I get it. The two brushes that they come with are kind of nice. I end up using them a lot with speed paints, so they make really good speed paint brushes, but that's another complaint I have. A lot of the steps call for a dry brush, and they don't include a dry brush. I don't know, like, it cannot be that much more to include just a simple small little dry brush thing like this, or even like something like this, just a flat brush. This was, you know, Dungeons and Dragons dry brush that came with one of the Dungeons and Dragons army painter sets that I got. But yeah, just something like that you can dry brush with, because they talk a lot about a flat brush. I think I used this one, which is just kind of an old flat brush that I have, to apply a lot of the paint, at least that first red base coat. So that I do have a little bit of a problem with the brushes, and trying to paint with just the brushes included is a bit difficult. My stripes were not as thin as I wanted them. The eyes, the lining around the eyes, not as thin as I would have liked. But I'm also noticing that I got a little bit of a red patch that I completely missed there on that black spike, but that's a pretty easy fix. I don't have my black, well, I do, but I just put my paintbrushes away, so I'll fix that off cam. But other than that, I do like the model. A few of the steps I do believe were completely pointless, such as the highlights on the teeth. I barely see them. The purple splotches, I don't know. I was not a huge fan of that. I like the shadow lining. That is a technique I'd never done before. So I'm really happy they included that, because I'm definitely going to start including that, because I actually think it helped out a lot on this model. There's also a few steps where it's like, oh, use a vermilion glaze. Oh, use a vermilion wash. I've looked it up, and I know there is a difference, but it's when you're making your own wash, it's really hard for it not to just be a glaze. So there's a lot of steps that are like, oh, make your own wash, make your own wash. Like the last step, or one of the last steps for the base here was, you know, on their video, it was use a black wash, and or you know, make a black wash out of the black paint. And I'm like, kind of over it. Grabbed the Nuln Oil, slapped it on, looks decent to me. Another quick thing I want to talk about, Vallejo. This is gray. This is not green. This is gray. That gray right there, this is the gray that's dry brushed onto the claws of the model. This is gray. So that's not a slight at D&D or Nulzers, or WizKids, sorry, not Nulzers. That's a slight at D&D. So yeah. But other than that, I do think the steps were simple to follow. But I do think in the video they could do a little bit better job of describing what a glaze is and what a wash is, especially for new painters or someone like me that doesn't ever glaze. It's really, I'm still kind of, I don't know the difference off the top of my head. I've looked it up and I still don't know the difference. So if somebody could educate me on that, that would be awesome. But other than that, really fun model, would be great to do. Also, they're called paint nights, and I'm sorry, but you can't paint. You can, especially if you have like a little fan, but I don't know. I don't think the average person could sit down and pump out a model in a night, especially with the amount of dry brushing this has and the washes. Those just take, the washes take a while to dry, and if you dry brush and you're new to it, you're gonna scrape paint and have to redo it. So I would just call them paint kits instead of paint night kits. But yeah, very good Red Slaad figure. I like the model. Mine only has 3 toes on this leg instead of the 4, and the model in the video definitely had 4 toes on each, so I don't know what happened there. But that's that. I'm glad I did add a little extra to the base, because I prefer the larger base there. Then I don't have black, and I'm not trying to just, you know, imitate. So the texture paint's nice for that. That was the step that I added in. But other than that, I don't think I changed too much. I just, you know, a couple colors like the opal skin, and then the cambium crimson, which is also known as, I believe, dragon red. Everything else was pretty much straight from them. I used Army Painter's black instead of their Vallejo black. I hate Vallejo black. It's way too shiny for me. But again, that's personal preference. Having a dropper bottle was very nice for this, because you do create a lot of glazes and washes. So a nice little dropper bottle full of water and a dry palette really helps with that. But yeah, got through with minimal mess on the thing. Really, again, only that. Now this is very clean, but it was, I mean, it's not very clean, but it was cleaner than normal. But it was trashed by the end of that video, so just be prepared that it's going to be very messy paint, especially if you're dumping the pots into the dry palette. Probably should have dumped them into the wet palette in hindsight, but what are you gonna do? So that's gonna wrap this one up. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Be on the lookout for our community mini for the month, and I will see y'all then. Peace.